checking out all these lives going on. All right. So today we are going to be answering some questions on stress and on cortisol, because cortisol is a very necessary yet misunderstood hormone that gets tossed a lot about, and we talk about cortisol as being the stress hormone. In general, we talk about stress being bad, but it can be good or it can be bad. We're going to talk all about which way we can turn the tide for better or for worse on our stress. But before we do, let me ask you: have you ever woken up saying, "Okay, today it's going to be a new day. I'm going to have a positive outlook on this day," but then something happens as the day goes on. Little things start picking away at you, wearing at you. Maybe you get a call from your bank. There's a weird transaction and now you have to look into that. The news comes on and it's bad news. Things are burning and misinformation has gone awry. And oh yeah, there's this deadly virus. And then as the day goes on, you're doing your work or you're trying to find more work and all these things. And they just start crunching in on you, right? And you just get this overwhelmed. So even on the best of days, we can start off with so much good intentions, like today is going to be wonderful, brand new day, it's going to be awesome, no matter what happens, I'm going to be grateful, I'm going to have a positive outlook. But as all these little things start picking away at us, the stress sort of closes in. And as it does, we maybe fall back into some habits that have helped us out of stressful situations before, right? Like maybe we're going to seek out some really calorically rich food, some good junk food to help us through it, to make us feel better. Maybe we are going to hunker down and watch some shows and just try to shut off the brain for a little bit. And then we might feel guilty afterwards, oh man, I should have gotten more done today. I know that while these things help in the short term with my stress, am I really helping myself in the long term with my stress by doing all these things? I know I should work out, but I'm so tired. And I know I should eat better for my body, but I'm just all I want is ice cream and love. I just want shelter and I just want to be in a little bubble. And I totally get you. There's nothing wrong with you, by the way. That is cortisol working exactly like it's supposed to under the circumstances. So here's some things to understand about the stress hormone, cortisol, and adrenaline, and all those things. Now, the way that stress is supposed to work, there's good stress and there's bad stress. There's useful stress, or eustress, as they call it in some psychology circles, that those are acute bouts of stress that spur action, right? That spur something good to happen afterwards, that create growth or development. This is what we talk about when we say things like get outside your comfort zone, experience something new. What we're saying is go seek out those good stressful situations, things that you'll actually grow from, right? Doing that easier said than done, right? Okay, so what we're looking at when we're trying to develop these eustress things, first of all, have an understanding that stress, cortisol, it all plays a role, it all plays a function. There's no such thing necessarily as bad stress, but we have to be able to push it into our favor, because it's no fun being under chronic stress, and it usually does not help us out in the long run. So the way stress is supposed to work is in a very acute situation. So a short, intense bout of stress can be very, very good for you, very useful. So there's a number of wonderful adaptations that take place when we are under an acute bout of stress. But when we're under chronically elevated stress, different adaptations take place. Keep in mind, stress and cortisol and all these hormones, they adapt you to the situation. They are adaptive hormones, right? Their job is to make you, the human, adapt to whatever the situation is. So if we are under chronically elevated stress levels, what that has meant for humans, historically speaking, is usually some kind of a famine, right? So chronically elevated stress, what does it do to us? It makes us seek out high-calorie food and or no food at all, because we are shutting down our metabolism, right? It's going to have one of two effects on people. Some people, when they have high chronically elevated stress, most people, their ghrelin goes out of control and they seek out more food. Some people, it can have the opposite effect, where they have no appetite. Both of these are a defense mechanism, right? If you were under chronically elevated stress back in the day, before food was readily available everywhere, that would be because there wasn't any available. So there's two logical things your body can do for you in a circumstance where food is scarce. It can either really push you to find the most calorically dense food you can, or say, you know what, save your energy, babe, you're just gonna shut down, right? Or some combination of both. So number one, it's going to make you seek out high calorie foods or have no appetite at all. Number two, it's going to encourage your body to store fat, particularly right around the midsection. So this fat patterning, the spare tire here, cortisol fat patterning, chronic elevated stress fat patterning, that is really super common. It's going to encourage your body to hold on to that because you don't know yet. Your body doesn't know how long it's going to have to hold out for. Even if you're eating food right now, that chronic elevated stress could be a sign that this is the last food you'll see in a long time. So your body doesn't know any better. It's hardwired for like hundreds, thousands of years ago. It's not hardwired for today, right? So this is your body doing exactly what it's designed to do. It's going to seek out high calorie foods. It's going to store fat. It's going to reduce brain activity, literally make you feel kind of dumb. And there's a good reason for this. If you have chronic elevated stress and your body is assuming, yes, we are low on resources, this is why we're chronically elevated stress, the brain accounts for 20% of your total caloric intake is just from using your dang brain, okay? So there's a lot of reasons why your body would want to start shutting that shit down, right? Really reduce the amount of usage. So reduced brain activity is another thing with chronic elevated stress. Reduced metabolic rate, the rate at which you are burning calories. And your body can do this. It can reduce your metabolic rate by reducing your muscle mass. So yes, chronic elevated stress will make you seek out high calorie food, will make you sleepy, will make your brain activity go down, will make you store extra fat, will reduce your metabolic rate. Chronic elevated stress will do all of these things. So we want to avoid chronic elevated stress. This is obvious, right? But this is not to say that we should avoid all stress, because there are benefits to acute bouts of stress, okay? We want to avoid chronic all-day stress, but having acute spikes in our stress will actually give you a lot of benefits. Because again, stress is adaptive, right? We are adapting our body to the circumstances. So if your body says, oh, we're under chronic stress, must be a famine, must be a drought, we're going to lower our metabolism, lower all this stuff. On the other side, if stress happens because there was a short burst, urgent thing that happened, you had to like escape a tiger, you had to like defend off an enemy, that would require a different adaptation than if there was a long-term famine going on. The stress in those cases are going to help you repair your muscles. It's going to help you have better sleep, higher brain activity, and use stored body fat so you can increase brain function. Because what do you have to do after an attack? After fending off an attack, number one, you likely had an adrenaline dump, so that was like putting all of your energy into like making those muscles work really intensely, right? So you have to repair any damage that was done from fending off that attack. And then you have to use your brain so that you can figure out how to prevent future attacks, whether that is like understanding how to take a different route that's not in the tiger's territory, or fortifying your village, or whatever it was. So all of these short bursts of stress can help all of these processes: brain function, sleep, muscle repair, using stored body fat, using those calories, because the stress reason is likely different. So this is the way your body's hardwired to do things. So stress is good, and stress is bad, right? Stress can be bad if it's chronic and really good if we have a spike in stress. So how do we do that? How do we get from chronic elevated stress to spiking and letting the stress lower, taper off immediately? One really obvious way is exercise, right? Exercise, if we put in the intensity, we put in the fierceness, we get into our workout and not just slogging our way through it, because again, doing a slow slog through our workout, yes, some movement is better than none, but what are we saying to our body, right? The body communicates in the language of hormones. The body communicates in the language of movement, right? What are we telling our body? If we are telling our body, like, we are going through an acute bout of stress, we're going to push through this, we are saying we need to adapt, body, we need to get stronger because we were working at a capacity that was higher than normal, right? Higher than normal demands being placed on the body for a short period of time, and then we let the stress dissipate. And many of you who have done a good high intensity workout know exactly what this feels like. You can actually feel your stress level drop after the workout, which is one of my absolute favorite reasons to exercise, is to feel better immediately. You don't feel better during it. If you're doing it right, sucks. Okay, if you're doing it right, sucks, but that's okay, because afterwards the benefits are multiple, right? Not only will you feel an immediate benefit of your stress level drop, that good, like, chill, like, feel right after your workout. Not only you feel that stress level drop, but also, yes, it will enhance brain function, it will enhance muscle repair, it will allow you to get adapted to being stronger, faster, all these things. Very, very cool. But that's only if we are actually speaking the right language to our body, which is with some higher than normal intensity work, right? So we want to shoot for high intensity when we exercise, and then real recovery on the in-between. And I'm talking mental recovery, not just physical recovery. If you got done with your workout and then you immediately went to the news and started scrolling through Facebook, like, oh, fuck, damn it, like this, you are going to end up feeling just as chronically stressed as ever, right? You're basically undoing all of that good work. So after your workout, you want to really look at the time after your workout is just as crucial and just as important part of your day. And don't worry about wasting time. I know a lot of y'all overachievers out there, especially all of those people who are listening who are working from home. Those of you who are working from home and you're working out from home, you're like, man, I have to keep grinding. I don't have the time. I'm making less money than I used to. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, all these things. Yes, that's true. But I guarantee you are going to have a more productive day. You're going to have lower stress and better brain function, and you'll be able to think about these things more clearly if you do a high intensity bout of exercise, and afterwards, do something nice. Do something enjoyable. Let that stress level come down and give yourself a moment just to think, just to be creative without any external stimulus from potentially negative sources, right? If you live with people who are negative, make sure you get outside for a nice chill walk afterwards just to be in your own mind for a moment. If you are at home by yourself, like, hang out with your pets, hang out and do some drawings, brainstorm a little bit, do a little bit of journaling, but do something without a whole lot of external, potentially negative stimulus right after your workout to make the most out of it, because we want those stress levels to, bam, drop off fast. That's going to keep them from being chronically elevated. So what we're looking at next, so those of you who are watching on the Instagram, you're not going to be able to see this chart, but that's okay. If you ever wanted to look at all of these things, I'm doing these lives every day at 2 p.m. I'm posting them to Facebook, to YouTube, and to Instagram. So what we're looking at, like, if we are waking up and we have mental stress right away, like, we're looking at the news, we're looking at our phone, everybody knows you shouldn't do that, right? when you first wake up, right? So we're immediately putting ourselves under mental stress, thinking about like all the crap we have to do in the day. And then maybe we sit down for our work. A lot of us are doing sedentary work. Most of my job is actually sedentary outside of the classes that I teach. Everything else is just sitting, right? So prolonged sitting can increase your cortisol, right? Prolonged exposure to blue light. You know what has blue light? The dang computer screen. Where are my blue blocking glasses? They're around here somewhere. There we go. See, it's after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Everything after 2 o'clock, I'm supposed to be wearing these dang things. There's settings on my phone where I can turn the blue light down and make it a warm spectrum. But these I find just easy. Put them on. Computer is all good. All that kind of stuff. So what do these things do? So the blue light that comes into your eyes when you wake up in the morning from the sky gives you a boost in cortisol. That is good, okay? It helps you wake up in the morning. A little bump in your cortisol first thing in the morning is okay, but we want that shit to taper off in the afternoon to keep our sleep cycle, to keep our circadian rhythm doing what it's supposed to do. If you don't let it drop off, then you're going to feel sort of like awake and anxious and antsy when you know it's time to go to bed, but you're just not freaking sleepy. And then you convince yourself that maybe you're one of those people that doesn't really need 8 hours. Maybe you only need like 6 hours, and then you stay up watching Netflix, and then before you know it, it's like 2 in the morning, and you're like, well, shit, I guess I should try to get to sleep. And then you have a fitful night's sleep for a few hours, you get up and you do it all over again. Your blue light. You watch for the freaking blue light. If you ever have any doubt that light has an actual impact on your circadian rhythm, there's lots of good studies out there that show that yes, it actually does have a good impact. Some of y'all own chickens. I've never owned chickens, but I've talked to people who own chickens, and they say that it's they're like little robots. You put a light on them, and boom, they're wide awake. You turn the light off, and boom, they're asleep, right? So we are not so different. The light coming into our eyes, the color spectrum of the light does in fact have an impact on our circadian rhythm. If any of y'all felt effed up when the sky was blocked out from the forest fires from California blowing into Tucson here. I know most of my listeners here are in Tucson. If you felt kind of funky in those couple of days, part of it, of course, was the air quality and the chronic stress reminder that the world's on fire, both problematic, but also it was blocking out our morning blue light, so we didn't have our circadian rhythms quite in balance either. So yes, all of your computer screens by default, your phones, your computer screens, all of these are going to have some blue light coming in. So totally fine in the morning, but in the afternoon and evening, you want to reduce that blue light exposure. They did a study in a nursing home, old folks home, where they did reduce the blue light in the evening, and they found that patients who had outbursts like aggro kind of outbursts with Alzheimer's and that kind of stuff, those incidences decreased, sleep quality increased, and many of the participants in this actually reduced their waist circumference measurement just by virtue of the fact that they were getting blue light in the morning, warm light in the evening. They just changed out the light bulbs. They had a light therapy table, all this kind of stuff. So very cool, very interesting stuff. So we want to reduce blue light as the day goes on. We want to reduce mental stress as the day goes on. Right after a workout, you're going to get a spike in your cortisol that we then want to drop off steeply. So we want to make sure that right after your workout, you're making the most out of that time. Reducing blue light in the evening, maybe going for a walk, that kind of stuff. So that over your day, you're going to get like a bump of cortisol earlier in the day, and then it's going to drop off going into the evening. Now, this isn't to say that those of you who work out in the evening need to change up your schedule. You'll still get that spike, and you might feel like wide awake for a little bit after your workout, but then that spike's going to drop off deeply. And as long as we're doing relaxing things, it will help you sleep even if you're doing it later in the evening. Although some people do find that exercise late in the evening does keep them up a little bit too late. So just keep that in mind. It depends on the person. So definitely look at lowering your stress, lowering your chronic stress. So that means lowering your stressful situations that come at you, how you deal with things like incoming messages. Like emails, like notifications on your phone, that kind of stuff. Coming up pretty soon, what is it, the 16th? Yeah, so I was thinking maybe end of October we would do a social media detox challenge for the Nerd Gym. So I'll be giving more information about that. But yeah, you want to find ways to manage your incoming messages from potentially negative sources throughout your day. Now, I, like most adults, like to keep myself sort of informed of what the hell's going on in the world, but that is a source of stress. Even if you consider yourself like a tough, thick-skinned person, getting constant bad news changes what's going on in your body on a hormonal level. So even if you're not like consciously like front of the brain aware of what's going on with your stress levels, you can have these things be impacting you on a hormonal level and not even realize it. So super important that we're paying attention to negative sources of information, whether that is negative people in our life that we have to like ratchet back the contact with, or that's negative news coming in, even from good, like, you know, friendly news sources, as it were. Like, I like listening to comedians for a lot of my news because I feel like, oh, well, it gives me a little bit of funnies and laughs while I'm doing it. Like, I listen to, you know, like Stephen Colbert and who is it, Seth Meyers and Trevor Noah, like all those guys, you know. So I get a lot of my news from those sources because they're putting a dose of comedy in it. But it's still bad news, y'all. All right, it's still bad news. So we want to make sure that we are tempering that or putting that in a box maybe right before our workout would be the best time for that, honestly. Like, if you get some bad news and then your reaction right after that bad news is an sudden increase in activity, physical activity, uptick in activity, what message are we sending to our body? We're sending the running away from a tiger message, not the it's a famine message, right? So we are going to get the good, useful stress benefits by scheduling it that way. So anything like shitty that you have to do during your day, whether that's getting posted on what's going on in the world, whether that's dealing with a stressful situation like the general adulting stuff like checking your email or checking your, you know, in with your bank, or I don't know, whatever junk you have to do, dealing with a difficult person at work. If you can schedule your workout right after those stressful encounters or those stressful information exchanges, then you are going to get the optimal benefits from that workout, because we're going to spike that cortisol and then it's going to drop off steeply afterwards. And that's going to give those physiological adaptations that most people actually want from their stress, which is more muscle, smaller waistline, better cognitive ability, not the other one, the other stress adaptation, which is to lower your metabolism, keep the fat on, lower your brain power, all these other things, right? So yeah, if you're stressed, number one, don't blame yourself for that. It's not your fault. It's fine. You're human, right? Understanding how these things work on a hormonal level, you know, I like to think of my body almost like as a pet, right? Like, how do I take care of my pets? How do I want them to feel? Like, I want to give them good food, I want to give them love, I want to give them everything they need, and I will absolutely expect them to misbehave and do things that I don't want them to do if I'm not giving them what they need, right? Body's the same way. You don't give the body what it needs if you don't have an understanding of how you inadvertently react to things, instinctively react to things. If you have no understanding of how your instincts work, then yeah, you are going to have less than stellar outcomes and not really know why. And I want you to know why so that you can then prepare ahead of time. Y'all know I don't believe in willpower. Willpower is BS. Throw willpower out the window and focus on preparing and looking ahead. Look into your future and decide, okay, how am I going to set up my body and my mind for success? How am I going to set things up so that I do use stress to my benefit and in my favor, not against me, right? We want not chronic elevated levels of stress. We want a spike in stress and then a steep drop off. That way we get the benefits of stress, not the negative associations with stress. So that's my stress rant for today. Hopefully I didn't stress you out too much, but hey, if I did, you know what to do. Do a high intensity workout right now, let that stress level drop off, put on some blue blocking glasses and just chill for a bit. Let the brain like come up with good solutions. Give yourself a moment to breathe, to be creative. I promise you, for those of you who are hardworking folks who tend to like really grind at it, if you allow yourself this break, if you spike that cortisol with a good high intensity workout and then let it drop off steeply and give yourself a real break afterwards, you will have better outcomes. You will feel better. Your work will be better quality. Everything will make more sense. If you feel like addle-brained and confused and you're like, oh, but I have, like depression, or, like maybe you have some other mental health issues that you're contending with, that's okay. You can layer this right on top of whatever else you're doing with your mental health issues. If you're seeing a therapist, if you're taking medications, all those things to manage this stuff, this advice will only help. You can just layer it right on top, okay? Whatever else you're doing, keep in mind how you're managing your stress throughout your day, and I will see you on the next one. Have an awesome day, everybody.